Hey everybody, welcome to That's Good Stuff. This is usually the show where we review pop culture's newest releases, but we're going a little back in time. So we're gonna do a book review, which we haven't really done on this channel before. I did like review The Martian when it came out because it was the only audiobook I've ever listened to, so I gave my thoughts on that. But we're gonna talk a little J.R.R. Tolkien. So we got these books right here. So these are the these are the three. Trying to remember what they call them. The three great
First age.
stories of the First Age. So we got the children of Hurin. Hurin, you got to say with O's. Beren and Luthien, and then Jonah
The
has
Fall
over
of
the Fall of
Gondolin. No, Fall of
Gondolin.
Gondolin.
Which is funny is I just saw someone else did a review for Fall of Gondolin. Like I was like, dang it, beat us by a day. So I always wanted to read Children. When it came out, I remember the hardback coming out, and I remember the cover, and I was like, dang, that's cool. Um, so I always wanted to read it. I never got around to it though. But earlier this year, they came out with these paperback covers, and I thought they're really cool. I really like the color. They're
Hmm.
very simple covers. Two of them are just helmets, and then the other one is kind of it's like an arch with a bird, and then a lady's hair and stuff like that. Yeah, so you see the helmet, and you get some of the city in the background. Helmets are pretty cool. This guy's got a dragon on it. Doesn't look like a dragon because he doesn't have wings, but we'll talk about that. And then the other one has a swan, which
Swan.
the character in the book is really fond of swans, so he uses that. So the first three, there's a lot of information in these books about Tolkien and his writing and some of the letters, because this is from Christopher Tolkien. He edited these together because they weren't released. They're not in their final forms. They weren't finished. And you can really tell in the Children in Hurin was my favorite, and part of that is because it does feel finished, more finished than the other two, and it feels like a novel. So that's kind of why I liked it, just kind of by default the best. Like I was saying, there's a lot of info that he gives about the writing process and everything. We probably won't go too deep on that, just unless you want to. But the main takeaway I took from that was that the Cimmerillion, which includes these stories, just kind of in a smaller form, was really Tolkien's kind of passion, and that was what he was, really wanted to do. Lord of the Rings is kind of just like it's just a story. It's just part of
But
the bigger story that he was writing.
yeah, he wanted the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings to be like one long continuing story.
Yeah, yeah. So, because the Cimmerillion touches on all the ages, um, and the Lord of the Rings is just the third age.
It's
So,
like how people talk about the movies as just one long movie, the trilogy. It's like that, but just even longer.
yeah, yes, he. I think everyone knows that his goal was to make a mythology for England because England, doesn't really have its own mythology. And then so it was kind of surprising to find out that the publishers weren't really interested in it. They were like, give us Lord of the Rings. Well, because he wrote The Hobbit, and they're like, yeah, give us a sequel to that. And he's like, well, I really am working on the earlier stuff, but they were more interested in Lord of the Rings than they were actually in the Silmarillion, which I guess makes sense back then. But I think if they knew how big Tolkien's stuff was, they probably would have
Hmm.
um, helped them, publish the Silmarillion. Um, so let's start with children. and this is based on a Finnish story. I gotta look that up while we're talking because it doesn't actually. I don't. I think it does mention in here that is based on something, but he doesn't really go deep into it. So I kind of had to look that up myself. Um, and
It,
it's
wa-
bit.
it wasn't entirely finished, but it was like nearly finished.
Yeah, but I mean, it's based on a story from Finland. Um,
Mm,
so one of their old myths. And what I was gonna say about these books is, so he's trying to write a mythology, and these are kind of like mythologies within mythologies because these are the oldest stories in Middle Earth, and like people in the Third Age, they know these stories. They're kind of, they're familiar with it. That's their past. So I think that's pretty cool concept. Um, in the extended edition of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship, I think it is.
mm,
Aragon is actually singing Beren and Luthien. So that's cool. I really like that idea that the characters they know these stories, and a lot all of these actually have to do with Elrond. Not him personally,
mm.
but they're his genealogy. They kind of, you know, like on both sides, I guess, both his mom and dad, because he's got human blood in his genealogy. So that's cool. Children of Hurin is about the children. Well, it's really about the boy. The girl, she comes in very late in the story, basically because I can't remember if she's born yet when he leaves. I think she is, but she might not have.
Yeah, yeah. She was like
She's
a
a
little, really little.
Yeah, she was like just born when they
Hmm.
send her in away. So, or Turin, sorry, I'm gonna get them mixed up all the
Hmm.
Hurin was this great, one of the great human leaders. I don't know, were they kings? I can't remember. But
I don't think so.
I don't think they call him kings, right? So
Mm-mm.
he was this leader of a tribe. Um, and he fought in this big battle in the First Age against um,
Morgoth.
Morgoth. So Morgoth's the big bad in all three of these books. He plays a bigger role in, I think, Huron bigger than the other ones because we actually see him in this one. So, the elves have been fighting with him for a long time, and there was this big battle, and he kind of unleashed. I think that's the one where he unleashed the fire and everything. And it went bad for the elves, and Hurin was there, and he kind of helped the elves out to escape. So he helped one the king elf to escape, and he actually gets captured by Morgoth and imprisoned. And Morgoth's kind of intimidating him, and he wants him. He's he wants him to bow down to him or something. And Hurin is very defiant, uh, and he pretty much spits in the face of Morgoth. So Morgoth curses him, and he puts a curse on him about his children, and then they keep him in prison the whole time. So Hurin had a brother too. Hor is his brother,
Mm.
and we'll learn more about him in Gondolin because it's like the other story. So we might just start with Beren and Luthien because I think Beren and Luthien actually is chronologically comes first. But like I said, this one was finished, so it feels like a finished novel. So we basically the rest of the story is Turin growing up. Um, he has to leave where they're living, his father's home, because the Easterlings are taking over, and his mother doesn't leave. She doesn't want to leave the home because she has this newborn baby, and because she wants to wait for Hurin, who she believes is still alive. So Tur- she sends Turin away, and he he's going south to find the elves to take him in. One of the things the elves confuse me. I should say, in all three of these books, it's hard for me to get a grasp on the elves because there's so many of there's dark elves, there's light elves. Light elves were the elves that, you know, had they heeded the command to leave Middle Earth and go to this island, which is where they go in Lord of the Rings. Whenever they're sailing west, that's actually where
Hmm.
they're going, the Undying Land. So the light elves left and they're gone, and then the dark elves, they're the ones who didn't want to go, so they stayed. And then there's gray elves. So gray elves like went, but then they came back because they didn't like it there or something. 'Cause they went there to live with the gods, and then I think it happens more in Gondolin where they
Hmm.
explain the elves kind of rebelled against the gods and they went back. So those are kind of like the gray elves because they've been in the presence of the gods, but they left. So most of the story takes place with the gray elves, and they have kingdoms. And I think they have two hidden kingdoms, I want to say, because there's Gondolin, which is like this famous hidden one,
Hmm.
but there's like another one, right? It's like where Hurin went with his brother when they were little, and they like found this hidden place, and they grew up there.
Was it a Balerian?
So Berryland is like the whole continent, or not
Yeah.
but like the whole side of the continent we're on. This
Well, didn't
whole
he go? Did he get to Gondolin?
that's what confused me because I think
Because
it was a different king, right?
they definitely mentioned Gondolin in Children of Hurin, but
Do they?
does he? Yeah, because I think they like cast him out.
So, like I said, the elves really messed me up because, and they do change names. A lot of names change in the
Hmm.
like versions. So there's a king in Gondolin, but I don't think it's the same king as the one
No, it's not.
that were introduced in this one. So this guy takes in Huron and takes him in because of what his dad did. So he still had he still felt like he owed the dad for helping him escape. So he took in Turin and he raises Turin, and Turin is, you know, he's very angry. He's a very, I wouldn't call him an anti-hero, but he just
Kind of.
he kind of is. But he's very fueled by his anger that his father was captured, and
Mm,
his anger does come into play for like the whole book. It's really the actions that he takes is in anger, and it gets him in trouble all the time. So he grows up there. He has this friend, just like in the other book. There's an elf
mm,
friend, um, and he's like this hunter elf, and he like goes and he watches the borders, make sure the orcs don't get too close because they're like getting close all the time. So he he like befriends him, and he's like the bowman, right?
mm.
So he's known as a hunter. But then something happens. I'm trying not to mix up the books. This is where Turin he insults. Doesn't he like one of the women elf falls in love with Turin, right?
Hmm.
I want to get this right because it's kind of the same as what happens in Gondolin with his
Yeah.
cousin. But one of the female elves falls in love with him, and this makes one of the other elves jealous because he's had his eyes on her. Um, See, it's just like Gondolin because this
Yeah.
happens the same. But
Hmm.
so he events happen and he ends up like insulting this elf. Does he kill him?
Yes, he does.
But it's not his fault, right? It's
Yeah.
like he everyone sees that he's dead, but it's really not his fault that he killed him.
Well,
It's
it is, but he was like enraged by the guy like insulting him. So
yeah. I mean,
that's the part that everyone misses, like in the town.
he tried to give the guy not to,
Yeah.
fight, but then he says something about his mom or something. I don't remember, but
And then just in anger, he kills him.
yeah, and everyone. I think there's someone that does see it, but they don't like come forward right away and tell them.
Yeah.
So Torin runs, kind of like Moses. He runs, he takes off. The king like wants him back because he's still, he likes him and he wants him back. But so he tells the elves to go look for him. He tells his best friend, what was his name? Probably should have the characters' names. I'm not gonna find it that. I want to say it starts with a T. I don't know, but Turin Belig, I think is his name.
I think,
Yeah, pretty sure that's his name.
yeah.
So he's like, I'll go find him. And he kind of volunteers and he gets this black sword that's like this legendary black sword, which if you're like into fantasy, you'll be like familiar with black swords because it's kind of like an evil sword, right?
Hmm.
Um, but it's like super powerful. It's like the most powerful sword. And it's black and he takes it and he goes to look for Turin. So Turin, he's out there in the wilderness and he comes to this band of like they're like ruffians. I don't know if they're thieves, but they're just like, rough characters,
Yeah,
I guess.
hunters.
Huh?
Hunters kind of.
Yeah, and they kind of go around just like looting and like killing orcs and stuff like that. So Turin's like, that's pretty cool because he always when he was growing up with the elves, he really wanted to fight the orcs and he wanted to be put on the front lines, but the king, was holding him back the whole time. He's like, he didn't want him to go because he knew he was angry and stuff, so he didn't want him to go fight. Turin, he has his dad's armor, I think. Does he? No, he doesn't get that yet, right? He finds it, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
The whole time he uses aliases.
Hmm.
So he changes his name a couple of times. So, okay, I'm remembering like the last one was like Thunberg or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, but so he goes in, he falls in with this kind of group of ruffians and they do their thing. And he's like a natural leader and they start following him because there was like another leader, but I think he died. He was betrayed or something. No, they were just like caught in an ambush or something like that. And then there's this other guy who's like always questioning him and he's not too sure about him. But they come they find this dwarf, which is this I like this part. He's a petty dwarf, and we're told that there's not he's kind of like the last one. They were dwarves, you know, they're not like related. I mean, they are related, but they're not the same as Gimli's dwarves and stuff like they were these different kind of dwarves.
Aren't they gnomes?
No, gnomes are elves.
Oh, okay.
That was confusing too, because I think he uses gnomes for humans and elves at the same times, but like in
Yeah.
Gondolin, gnomes are elves, and then I think in this one, gnomes are humans. But anyway, so these dwarves, this petty dwarf, he's the last of the dwarves. He has sons, right? He's got like two sons, or is it two or three? I can't I think it was two, but they kind of they capture him and he's like, well, I got like all this money because I'm a dwarf, so I have all this gold in like a hidden fort in the mountain. And they're like, let's show us this mountain, this is pretty cool. So they go to this mountain and the dwarf kind of likes Turin because Turin's kind of nice to the dwarf, but he doesn't like everyone else, everyone, especially like the
Hmm.
Turin's sidekick or
Yeah.
second in command. He hates him because he's not nice to him. but he does kind of respect Turin. So Balin comes and he finds them, and the dwarf hates elves too because naturally dwarves don't like elves, so he
Mhm.
hates him, and he's like jealous because he kind of likes Turin, but I think they killed one of his kids, didn't they? So Turin's like, well, we're sorry about that, but
Yeah.
it was because it was kind of on accident. Well, not they were startled by him and they killed him, and so
Hmm.
he kind of like makes a pact with the dwarf that like he'll keep him safe, um, in exchange for his life. So his friend Balak comes and he's here and he's like excited to see Turin. He wants to take him back, but Turin's like no. And then I think Balak tells him that someone came and told him his part of the story. So the king wants him to come back, and Turin's okay. Maybe I will, but then orcs attack, right?
Hmm.
And they attacked all their friends and stuff, and poor Balag's accidentally killed.
Hmm.
And that's it's just kind of a accident, really. It's not really out of anger or anything. He just gets killed. Um, and then the dwarf betrayed them, right? He told them
Hmm.
where they were because he was jealous of the elf, and then they're just like a big battle on the mountain. The dwarf dies, everyone dies, and then turns on his by himself again. And he takes the black sword, so he's got that now. And then the next up, Morgoth. He I don't know if he can see Turin, but he like kind of knows what's going on. Um, so he unleashes the dragon, he's the first dragon, the father of dragons.
Hmm.
Starts with a G. Glorin,
Yeah.
probably saying that wrong, but Glorin. So he unleashes Glorin. He's cool. He's like the first dragon. He doesn't have wings, so he's kind of like a big old lizard. Um, and they say he like stinks real bad, but he can talk and
Hmm.
he like hypnotizes people. Turin, he finds some elder elves, right?
Yeah.
Does he go back? I don't think this is a different town, right? That he finds.
Yeah, where he fights the dragons, a different town.
Yeah, he finds a different town, and there's this girl there that like because he's a big handsome dude, so the girl elves are naturally drawn to him. So there's another elf that kind of falls in love with him, and I'm kind of foggy on what's happening in this section too much, but basically the king there likes him too, so he allows Turin to like lead some forces to go fight the dragon that's coming. Well, they get their butts kicked because they've never seen anything like this dragon before. And like I said, the dragon can like hypnotize Turin and like
Hmm.
freezes him. And then so he's like frozen, and the dragon goes to the town and like kills everyone. And I think the girl dies too, but or
His
she
memory
runs.
is also like kind of wiped from the hypnotism.
Yeah, yeah. So and then he does the dragon thing of sleeping on the gold because he likes to do that. Turin actually has to go back. I don't remember why he goes. I think he goes back for the girl. But he doesn't find her. And he sees the dragon like sleeping on the gold and stuff. So he leaves again and he's gone again. Meanwhile, his sister, what's her name? It's like Naynor. If
Yeah.
if I'm saying that
Ninor, I
right,
think it is.
yeah, she's like finally grown up. So it's time for her and her mom to leave, and they do. Turin goes back to his hometown. I forgot about this. He
Yeah.
actually goes back to his hometown, and his, his mother had got remarried to one of the Easterlings. So oh no, is it his mother or is it the other lady? It's the other lady. His mother's still there,
Hmm.
but her friend, I don't know the relation, but her friend got married to an Easterling and they kind of protect the mom.
Mhm.
because she likes the mom, so she gets the guy to protect him. But Turin comes, and again, he's like he gets angry, and he ends up like killing the Easterling guy and like all the people there.
Mhm.
So now they have to leave. So they leave. Um, I I don't remember. Oh, the mother and the daughter had already left.
Yeah,
But he went there to see if they were still there. They actually had left.
they were searching for him.
Yeah, they're looking for him in the cells. I think they actually get to the where the king lives, the king elf, and they go there, and he's like, you know, stay here, but they're like, the mom's like, no, we gotta go look for him. So they're looking for him, and
They come
he
across the dragon.
they come across the dragon, and
He
the
hypnotizes I think both of them, doesn't he?
he definitely does the daughter,
Yeah.
Nanor.
But then the mother like goes off wandering into the forest.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so they both kind of go crazy from this experience
Mhm.
with the dragon because they were with these other elves. I guess the king lent them some elves to go look for him,
Mhm.
and they all got killed. And uh, like Jonah said, the mom like goes in the forest and no one ever sees her again.
Mhm.
And then what happens to the daughter?
She just like Turin, she just kind of like loses her memory and wanders off into like the next town.
Yeah, so there's a next town, and Turin goes there, and the king really likes him again because you know Turin's so nice. Just this handsome guy that everyone likes, uh, and he's also a legendary fighter by that. Now people have heard of him, and they've heard of his sword. So he's kind of been he's they kind of know him as an orc slayer now. That he's like this powerful guy that can kill orcs and stuff like that. We should talk about the orcs a little bit later. We'll do that in Beren and Luthien.
Hmm.
But so Turin's there, and he's like, again, the king likes him, but the king this time he got injured somehow during like an earlier battle, so he's very weary of fighting. He doesn't want to confront orcs or anything like that. But Turin's like, well, this dragon, he's gonna come for us, so we got to be prepared. And I actually liked the part with the king. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like he's there, he meets his sister Nair, and they actually fall in love. It's like a Luke Skywalker Leia kind of
Hmm.
thing. They have that natural attraction. Um, Dang, I really want to tell you what the source text. Okay, it doesn't even say. Okay, but anyway, like I said, it's based on an old fantasy
Hmm.
like myth from Finland, I think. And it's very similar because I think the same thing happens with the sister. But so they fall in love and they get married, I think. They actually get
Hmm.
married. So they're kind of happy, but this whole time the dragon thing is like looming and because they know he's coming because he was sent by Morgoth for the curse to fulfill the curse. So he's got to get, you know, he's got to kind of make a plan because the king doesn't really want to help him. So he takes like only guys will help him to confront the dragon, and they kind of make this plan to get the dragon into like a river type area so that you know it's like high on two sides. It's a very dangerous
Hmm.
place. It's high on two sides, and like there's a low part because they're planning to attack him in his weak part, which is the belly. Because in his first I think what the time he went back to look at the dragon, I think he saw a weakness, right? On the
Hmm.
dragon's belly. Which if you saw The Hobbit, you know that's where they're weak. So yeah, he's gonna confront this the whole time. The sister's just like freaking out. She doesn't want him to go, and then she's like, "I'm going with you," and he's like, "No way, you can't go with us." But she does. The dragon like attacks the town. The king leaves with his people. He's like, we got to get out of here. And then Turin and his men, they fight the dragon, and his men get killed. And Turin ends up defeating the dragon.
Hmm.
But the dragon, like we said, he's got like poison, right? He's poison. His blood is poison, actually.
Hmm.
So Turin gets the blood on him. I don't. Did he even need to get the blood on him? I think that was just like a thing he did at the end. Like he defeated it, but then he went back and like got blood on him for some reason.
Well, they like think he's dead at first. So was that from the blood or
Yeah, so the
trying to
blood
remember?
poisons him,
But it
and
doesn't
he
kill him all the way yet.
yeah, and he's like he falls on the ground.
I think he like stabs a dragon and the blood gets on him.
Yeah, and the daughter or Naynor, the I should say the king really liked her, right? He wanted
Hmm.
her. He fell in love with her. So he's kind of like he doesn't want to turn back.
Hmm.
And she's like she rejects him. There's a good scene with him and his last words and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And but she rejects him and she finds Turin and she thinks he's dead. So she what does she do to die?
She gets like her memory back and she remembers that he's her brother. And then she like just like jumps like into a river and dies.
Yeah, she drops into a river because she thought he was dead and she got her memory back because the dragon's dead. So it's kind of Romeo and Juliet type ending.
Hmm.
It's very tragic. That's one of the reasons I think I like this book too, because I've drawn the tragedies and that's tragedy. It's the most tragic of the three stories. But yeah, so I really like that one. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know if I like one or like this one or Beren and Luthien better. I think it is like the most like book-like. I think you can still tell it's not like entirely finished because there is a lot of like going back and forth and some parts are kind of like rushed to get to the next point, but
Hmm.
it does read like a full novel, thankfully, and it is the most like kind of cinematic. Like you can see like all these scenes like just coming to life in the book. And it's also like the most one of the most like grounded stories I think of like the Middle Earth kind of ones. It just feels like really realistic and brutal, and like you said, it is like a tragedy, and it's very like Shakespearean the way it like the story's told and like the ending especially. And I think like if you're gonna do a tragedy, you definitely like play off of like Shakespeare and those types of stories. Um, so yeah, I did. And I also love J.R.R. Tolkien's just his overall just like kind of way of writing, like his style. I know like a lot of people just kind of aren't like kind of a fan of it, but I do love the way like he writes sentences and everything. So
Yeah, the one
I
thing
think
that
this one is very strong.
surprised me on this one was the writing. It's a
Hmm.
lot, it's more accessible, I think. A lot of people like to say that he writes kind of a Bible story kind of style for these
Well,
older
like
ones.
yeah, like kind of historical, like
Yeah. And I think you do definitely see that in Gondolin,
hmm.
and even Beren a little better. But this one was, I think, was a kind of a different style than those two. And like you said, tragedy. It's 257 pages, so it's not short. I guess if he was gonna finish it, he would just tighten some stuff up
Yeah.
and maybe, flesh out some stuff because it doesn't really need to be longer, I don't think. I also like the ending with the dad because the dad finally gets
Hmm.
released, and he finds his wife, who was out there one. I
Yeah.
love that ending.
Hmm.
Really good. So yeah, definitely. If you're gonna read one of them, I would pick this one. But I know a lot of people love Beren and Luthien. I know that's a lot of people's favorite.
Hmm.
Beren and Luthien's a love story. So again, kind of Shakespearean, like you said. This one is very fragmented, though. These next two ones, they have different versions. So it's Beren and Luthien starts kind of like Children, where it's just kind of straightforward narrative, but then he didn't
It started,
finish.
it's like a, yeah, it's like a short story originally.
Mhm. But then he also has it in poetry form,
Hmm.
which his poetry is fine. It's just it was a little too much, I think. The poem section wasn't my favorite, but it's not because the writing was bad. I think it just went on a little too long, and I got kind of tired of it. And then, so Beren and Luthien's the story of another guy, another human.
Hmm.
Um, at first, we're not told too much about him. So these are the ones where they call him gnomes, I think.
Yeah.
It was kind of confusing the way he used gnomes, but so Beren was from these northern tribes, and his dad was famous again for famous leader. We're not told in the original or the first story. I don't know if it's probably the original, but too much about him. He's when it start. I do like how it kind of starts with him just kind of wandering around the
Yeah.
forest. He like has no. He's not travel. He's solo. He's just traveling around, and he's known for music. So he's playing this music, and these elf these two elf siblings, they hear the music, and you know the boy elf, very wary of humans, so runs off, but the girl's like, I like this music, man, this is my jam. So she's like, she starts dancing because she's known as
For
a dancer,
dancing.
yeah, because and the brother, I should say, was a musician as well too. He was like the greatest elf musician or something like that.
Hmm.
And so they're both in the music, and she's known for her dancing, and she kind of meets Baron because he sees her dancing, and they kind of warm up to each other. So she's like, this is my kind of guy. So she eventually takes him to her father, which is, see, this is where the kings confuse me again. He's not the king of Gondolin, right? He's the other
No.
king from, is he the
Yeah.
same king from Turin?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? If I
I
had the
think it was a
names,
di different location.
this is a different place. So like I said, this story takes place before the other two.
Hmm.
All the kings have T names, so that's why I kind of get confused with them. Um, so the king like forbids it. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. Uh, but he's like, but Baron's very like, I'll do anything for her, and he's like, okay. So he thinks of like the hardest achievement ever to do, and it's go get me one of the Cimarrols from Morgoth's crown. Uh, all that stuff took place before. That's like when Morgoth first got to the Middle
Hmm.
Earth. He destroyed the lamps because the lamps, there was an age of lamps where there was no sun, but there was these lamps. He destroyed those, and the gods were like fighting him, and he also took the Cimarrols from this elf king who made them, and that's a big deal because this elf king like tells his sons, we got to get those back,
Hmm.
no matter what. We'll kill other elves if we have to, and that's a whole thing. Like the first violence, elf on elf violence.
Hmm.
um, so so the king's like, yeah, if you want to marry my daughter, give me a Cimarron from the crown. And Baron's like, yeah, I'll do that, man, because I do love her. So I'm gonna go do that. And he fails completely, like really fast. The orcs capture him pretty fast,
Hmm.
and he's in prison there. So there are two versions of this story. One,
There is like I think in the second version he comes across like another kind of group of humans before he goes
yeah,
to,
I think maybe even it's the elves that are trying to get the Cimarron. So they're like, yeah,
yeah,
we'll help you go get it because we wanted
and
to.
then they like kind of get captured with him.
Yeah, on that version they fight a necromancer. He's
Hmm.
like the main wizard of Morgoth. So that. or sorcerer, I should say, not
Mm.
wizard, because wizards are different things in Tolkien's books. But so there's two versions. One, he gets captured in Angband, which is Morgoth's, Iron Castle, and so we get kind of two sub bosses, which I was thought was cool. I like
Hmm.
them both. I can't decide which one I like, but so there's one that's like the king of the cats. He's like this giant cat that's in charge of cooking for some reason. Morgoth puts him in charge of cooking, so it's this cat that's in charge of cooking. The other one's this necromancer guy um, who he makes werewolves, right? So that's like his job is to make werewolves because there's a prophecy that there's this dog.
Hmm.
There's this he's like the king of the dogs, and he actually came to Middle Earth with the elves. So he was like with the gods. So he's like this big dog. What was his name? Was it Hor too?
No, I forget his name.
Does it start with an H though? Man, the names.
I know. I know the cat was Stu, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah, the cat. Tinneville, I guess is the cat. Uh
Wasn't Tenneville Luthien?
oh yeah, yeah. So Luthien has a different name, we should
Yeah,
say. They both
in
do,
the
don't
original
they?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, they both have different names, which they're just to confuse me again. Uh Charakras is like the big wolf. I can't find the dog's name. It starts with an H. I know that. It's like but anyway, there's this prophecy that this dog who likes to kill elves and stuff.
One.
Huan,
Huan, or
Huan,
however you pronounce it.
Huan, and he has a master, right? The dog has a master, but the
Hmm.
master gets killed. I don't remember how, but I think he's an elf, right? And so there's this prophecy that this dog can only be killed by the greatest wolf of Middle Earth or something like that. So this sorcerer's like trying to make wolves so that they can finally defeat this dog because Morgoth doesn't like this dog. And then in the first story, the dog has this natural rivalry with the cat.
Hmm.
It's their natural enemies. So, but there's still the prophecy about the wolf.
Yeah.
Um, so Beren and both stories he's captured. So Luthien's like, she's not just gonna sit around waiting for him. She's gonna go. In one of the stories, she's like stuck in this tree house that her dad
Hmm.
made and is guarded, but her brother like gets her out. What happens to no one ever sees him again in one of the versions. I don't remember
Yeah.
why. He leaves for some reason and no one ever sees him again.
Doesn't he like go after her when she leaves?
Yeah,
And then he
and I
like
guess
just
he
gets
just gets
lost.
lost.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Um, the greatest musician, he got lost. Um, so she leaves and she's gonna go rescue him. And the dog, she meets the dog, and he's like, "I'm gonna help you too." He could talk. He talks when he wants to.
Hmm.
He doesn't talk all the time, but when he needs to give him information, he does. So yeah, the dog protects her, and they get to Angband, and in one version, they got to sneak. In one version, they sneak in pretty easily,
Hmm.
and like the dog's like, "I'll take care of the cat," so they fight the cat. In the other version, they got to take out the wizard, right? And I don't even remember how they take him. Not the wizard, the sorcerer.
Hmm.
I don't remember how they take out the necromancer, but I think he's there with the wolf, and
She doesn't she like distract him with like her dancing?
yeah. Yeah, because she does this in both versions.
Yeah.
On one version, she distracts Morgoth, and Morgoth's like, "Oh, I don't even like dancing, huh?" But she has like this stuff that she put in her dress, like
Hmm.
makes people fall asleep. It's like a spell or something like that,
Yeah,
and it
and it makes
makes
all like the orcs fall asleep.
yeah. And there's like what are the big guys called?
Balrog?
There's like Balrogs in there, and they're like falling
Hmm.
asleep. um. So she does that, makes them sleep, and they get the Cimarel, but it like he gets it out with a knife. One time, there's like a story with a knife too, where he gets it.
Hmm.
He gets it from like cooking or something. I don't remember. Uh, so he gets the knife and he gets it, and they're like, "Oh, we got this." But then the wolf comes, and he's like a werewolf in the other one. He's a wolf in this one, and he like attacks them, and him and the dog like fight. Uh, and Baron's got the jewel in his hand, and the wolf like bites off his hand.
Hmm.
So the wolf's got it in his belly, and they escape. They escape to the king, and the king's like, "Wow, you did that. That was pretty brave of you." And he's like, "I do have the jewel. Technically, it's in my hand, but my hand is in
But
this
my hand
wolf."
was eaten.
Yeah. So the king's like, "Okay, we're gonna go get this wolf. So we got to go defeat it." And the dog is there and he helps him. Um, the prophecy actually does come true and the dog dies.
Hmm.
And they get they get the jewel, right? So it just kind of ends on one of the version, like the first version,
Yeah.
I think it just kind of ends, and it's like, oh, and then Beren and Luthien did other stuff too. Um, but the second, the poem version's a little longer, especially with the way they have to fight the necromancer first
Hmm.
before before they get to Morgoth, and then I think that's it. Is there anything else I'm missing that's important to this story?
Well, doesn't they both die? Does he die fighting the wolf, I
Oh
think?
yeah, in one of the versions he died. Well, both
Yeah.
versions he dies fighting the wolf.
Yeah.
And then in one of the versions, Luthien goes to the god of death, which is
Hmm.
Mandos, I think his name is, and she kind of like begs for his life or whatever. And so he's like, "Yeah, I'll bring him back." So it's the first. I think he's the only human ever to
Yeah.
come back from death, which is a big deal in Tolkien's
Hmm.
because we don't really know what happens to dead humans. Because like the elves, when they die, they go. It's kind of interesting. Elves can go when they die. They go over to the other side, but then they can come back. Um,
Hmm.
if they're like commanded, they can actually come back to life. And I think that does happen with one of the elves. But she like begs for his life, and then he's like, okay. And they're the first human elf to get married, right?
Hmm.
So, and then they have little advent. There's some stuff that happens after this in the other versions, and like kind of just notes that he made, like what they're doing. I don't remember
Hmm.
much. I don't think they do much.
No.
I think they say they have a kid and stuff like that
Yeah.
because they have to because they're Elrond's
Hmm.
ancestors. So Beren and Luthien, it was very fragmented. I like the ideas in it. I don't know if I like the overall. I mean, the overall story is fine, but I don't know if this was my favorite just because it was so fragmented. I do kind of wish we would get kind of a combination of the two stories where we got the necromancer and the cat, and they had to get through
Hmm.
both of them. That would be kind of cool. I know a lot of people love the dog, because he's a dog.
Hmm.
But what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it's possibly my favorite of the three. You say it's like fragmented, but I kind of saw it as kind of the most complete of it because even though there is two versions of it, they do feel complete and it feels very fairy tale-esque, this
Yeah.
one. Especially with like the big cat and everything. Like that's very like Alice in Wonderland kind of territory.
Hmm.
Um, and it was he made the story based on his wife. Like Luthien was based on his wife, and it was all kind of like just a tribute to her. And on like their graves, they have the names Beren and Luthien on them. So I like that.
Hmm.
Um, and I like just yeah how like like I said like fairy tale and kind of just into like fantasy it feels just bringing all like the elements in. I don't think that cat is really like that canon anymore. I think that was like
No.
kind of taken out for the necromancer. But yeah, I did really like just the story and like you were talking about, just how like quick it like gets to it. Like where it just starts with him wandering the forest and they just kind of meet. So there is like just like a mythology and like a legendary aspect where like you don't really know that much about like their backstories. They just kind of like fated to meet each other and they become a legend in Middle Earth. So I like how just like important it does feel to overall like the Middle Earth like mythology this one is.
Yeah, and we should say there is a longer. No, no, that's the next story. Okay, okay. I'm getting confused because uh, Fall of Gondolin. So
It was
this.
real fast. It was funny reading that one because if that was like written today, a lot of people would be kind of upset like where it goes with because Baron's kind of wimpy, so
Mhm.
she kind of does everything. So it's funny
Yeah.
reading that.
I mean, yeah, he tries, but he's
Yeah.
kind of out of his depth. I did want to talk about the orcs real fast because I did kind of forget about this, but the orcs in these books, they're kind of funny. So
Hmm.
they're not like the super orcs that we see in the Lord of the Rings. They're more like the little guys that we see in the Hobbit and stuff. Um, so it is funny that they get scared a lot. So
Hmm.
like Turin, whenever he like shows his sword, they would be like, "Ah, run away!" and they would just run away. And I just thought that was very funny. Like the dog would scare them. They would, they're
Hmm.
very they're not very tough.
Like the Goombas.
Yeah, they're not very tough guys in this version in these three stories. They're not the Orakai yet.
Hmm.
So they're just kind of more like goblins, I guess you would say. Um, and then you do have the Balrogs walking around because they're like Morgoth's main generals and stuff. Like they'll actually
Hmm.
lead the orcs out and stuff, like, which we'll see in Gondolin. So
Yeah.
Fall of Gondolin. So talking about a guy just wandering the forest. That's kind of what happens again.
Hmm.
And again, there's different versions of this. So there's like three different
Hmm.
versions of this story. One that happens in like the Cimmerillion, and then there's earlier stuff. So this is about Tor, right?
Hmm.
So he is actually Turin's cousin, and his dad was Hor. And his dad was actually killed in that battle that where Hurin was captured.
The unnumbered tears.
Yeah. So his dad was actually captured. So
Hmm.
oh, maybe, am I confusing the two guys? Because was
Yeah,
Beren,
he wasn't captured. His dad just died in the battle.
yeah, I know that. But was he the one? I'm trying to remember because in
He
the
does
early
get taken
story,
in by like elves. Yeah.
yes, okay. Because on the very first story, he just kind of wandered. We just see him kind of wandering the
Hmm.
lands, and he's kind of just like this lone guy, and he's into He really likes nature. He likes the river. He really into the
Those
um.
swans.
Yeah, he loves swans. He likes the river. He likes being. He kind of likes being alone.
And
He
he was
just
also like a musician.
yes, he plays the harp or something like that.
Hmm.
he's a he also has a bow and stuff like that. So he's like a woodsman. He's very, he's okay being on solitary and being alone.
Hmm.
And we meet him and he's just kind of traveling. He's just, trying to avoid orcs and just trying to travel down this one river. Um, but then he meets Okay, and this is going to be different versions, but on one version, he meets the god of the rivers. What's his name? Of the waters, actually.
Olmo.
Olmo, yeah. So it's this big god. I think this is the only god that interacts with people that we see in
Hmm.
Middle Earth, if I'm remembering right. Because Olmo loves elves and he loves men.
Hmm.
He loves the firstborns of the big god. So he's worried about him. He's because he knows that Morgoth's looking for the king. He's looking for Gondolin. Gondolin's this city that's been hidden, and Morgoth really wants to find it to defeat this king, because he believes that the king's the only one that can like come up against him. Um, and so Olmo goes to Tor and he's like, "Hey, you need to take this message that Morgoth's gonna, find Gondolin, and you gotta fight him before." And Tor's like, "What if he doesn't listen?" And he's like, "Well, you gotta tell him to escape then. Like, come down here, come down to the south, and I'll get him on some boats and we'll get him out of there." um, so Tor's like, "Okay." And then he goes and he finally finds a secret passage. In the longer version, there's more to him wandering around. Like you
Mm,
said, he finds some elves and he's kind of raised by them, right? Um,
yeah.
Same way that,
There's one of the versions is just his travels before he goes to Gondolin.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of like Turin, where he's raised by these
Hmm.
elves that could like him, and they get killed. I can't remember what they do, but I think they were one of the elves that were looking for the Cimarrones or something. But anyway, they get killed, so he ends up alone again. But he meets a friend. I think
Another elf friend.
another elf. So just like Turin had an elf friend, he's got an elf friend. In the version I remember, the elf was washed up from a shipwreck, um, and Tor sees him, and almost tells him like, that's you'll meet a guy that will help you get to Gondolin because he's been to Gondolin.
Mm,
Um, so he's like, yeah, I can't remember what he says to him, but they bond like instantly when he sees
mm,
him. So they travel together in this version of the story. They travel together. I like. There's this really cool scene where they see Turin.
hmm.
He's just kind of crazy. He's just like waving his black sword around. I really love that scene. It's like an Easter egg in the movie if
Yeah.
they ever made a movie of it. But it was such an awesome scene. I love that. They also come with they come they meet these two spies, right? They're elf spies, and they have like this important message for the king. Um, and I did like that part too. So I kind of like the longer. I didn't know. I kind of like. It's weird. I kind of like the short version. I kind of like the long version too.
I like the first one the best, definitely.
Yeah, it's cool. I like his. I don't know. I did like the first part. I would say better, but I did like the stuff with him when he meets the other elf. Um, because I don't think he meets him till like till he gets like to the very end of the path in the
Hmm.
first version. So I do kind of like them traveling together. Um, and they finally get to Gondolin, and the elves like in one of the versions takes like forever because there's like gates that they have to
Hmm.
pass and they have to get through. In the first version, he just kind of like follows the river the whole time, and he sees some swans. He's like, "I love swans; those are so cool." Um, and he finally gets to Gondolin, and the elves. In the one version, the elves are just there, and they're, "Oh, okay, we'll take you to the king." In the other version, they have to get through these gates, walk there, and then there's a lot of traveling in this book. There's a lot of detail on the traveling and stuff, but they finally get to Gondolin, and the king's there, and he delivers his message. The king's like, "No, I don't want to fight. We're safe here. I'm not going to put my people in danger. So we're just going to stick it out in Gondolin." And then, so Tor's like, okay. Uh, and he kind of gets his own house there,
He falls in love with the king's daughter.
falls in love with the king, which makes this other elf mad, just like
Hmm.
in the first one. Because this elf, his family's like into mining. So they're like rich, and they were miners, and he's had his eye on the king's daughter the whole time because he's like a higher status, and Turin gets married to her, and he's like, dang it, and he's all jealous. So he ends up betraying Gondolin, the whole city, to Morgoth. On one of the versions, he just kind of meets some orcs, and the orcs like they take him to Morgoth, and Morgoth's like, "Yeah, I'll make a deal with you," and he's like crossing his fingers behind his back or something like that. He's like, "I'm not going to keep this deal," um, but yeah, so he ends up betraying him. On one version, we get this big old battle
Hmm.
because Balrogs are there, and then like these famous elves, because there's like a bunch of tribes of elves, and we they tell us about these famous ones, and they make this well, they make their last stands, and then there's like this one elf that helps them escape and stuff like that. And one of the versions, Turin's wife, she has him make this escape route. She's like, "You got to make us this escape route since we know
Hmm.
that Morgoth's coming." So he does that, and they end up escape. They have a kid, right? They have a son
Hmm.
who is Elrond's like great grandfather or something like that. He's actually pretty important into the further narrative because they like go into this whole story at the end of the book, right?
Yeah.
So they,
Arendelle.
yeah, yeah, I think he's Elrond's grandfather.
I think he's like his father.
Oh, is it his father? Yeah, you're
Yeah, and
right.
then Tuor is his grandfather.
Yes. So he has Elrond, and Elrond actually has a brother.
Hmm.
Um,
Elros.
yeah. And Elros decides to live as because he gives him a choice to live as a human or live as an elf. So one of them picks to live as a human, which is Elros.
Hmm.
So he kind of just goes off and dies. And then Elrond chooses to live as an elf. And Elrond is who raises him? Because he's not raised because his
Yeah,
father.
I don't remember the
Yeah, I don't
name.
remember right now, but because something happens to his father and his mother.
Hmm.
Anyway, we'll get to that. So Tor escapes. In one of the versions, this famous elf helps him escape, and then he got to fight this Balrog, this last Balrog, and they like both die on the mountain, kind of like Gandalf and
Hmm.
the Balrog. So they kind of fight, and I think
Also, the elf that betrayed Gondolin dies
he does die,
because he attacks Tur Tuor's wife, and then he comes and kills him.
and they like throw him off a cliff or something
Yeah,
like that.
they throw him
um,
out of like the palace.
yeah, yeah, he like falls,
Hmm.
and so they escape. In one of the stories, the battle's like real short. We don't get much of
Hmm.
it. Do they even go into it?
No, it's basically just like there
Then
was a battle, and
yeah,
then
and they
these people
left.
lost, and then that's it.
Yeah. Um, so I kind of like the battles part too.
Yeah.
So and then it kind of they don't do much. They just kind of go to the south. So they have like all these other elves with them, and they kind of just go. They go to Olmo, where he told them to go to. Um, the swans.
How does the king dies? How does he like stays behind,
Yeah,
chooses
he's
to stay behind in the palace and just wait for everything to like fall?
yeah, and the palace like falls on
Yeah.
him. Yeah, and then I forgot about his armor. And one of them, he makes his armor, and he like
Hmm.
chooses swans. Swans are important to him. I can't remember why.
Hmm.
In one of the versions, it's like his dad or something like swans or something. I can't remember. But there's importance to swans. I know there's like a bigger importance to swans in Tolkien. I don't think they get into it in this book, but there was like the Swan Island where the elves like fought each other to get these boats because they wanted to go back and so they had to fight these guys. But that doesn't really play into it. And like I said, they do go into Tour. He has a son,
Hmm.
who's important because he he has to do with the Cimarils, right? So
Hmm.
the elves, the elves of the king, that one king that really wanted the Cimmerals because he made them. So he told his sons to go. They gets into this very long part, which I didn't really care for.
Yeah, there's like the two brothers that are searching for the Silmarils.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of brothers, but some of them died,
Hmm.
and there was like two lived, and they want to get the Cimmerals, and they end up going with Tor to get them, right? So
Hmm.
they finally get them. It's hard to remember what happens to Cimmerals.
Yeah.
One of them goes into lava. I know that because one
Yeah,
of them goes
one,
in. There's
yeah, it's
a
like one is in the sky, one's in the sea, and then one into lava.
Yeah, yeah. So they get separated.
Hmm.
And the one in the sky is actually Elrond's grandfather or father, right?
Hmm.
So because he's looking for his wife, because his wife was an elf, and I don't did she take the
He like,
Silmaril?
yeah, and then she like transforms into a bird and like
Yeah,
flies into the sky and becomes that Silmaril, the
yeah.
star.
So yeah, and so someone makes him a boat, and he like flies in the boat to go find her.
Yeah,
And I think he eventually does, and then they're kind of just like in the
yeah.
sky. And then there's a prophecy that at the end battle, the very, very end battle where Morgoth's released again, that they'll come back and actually it's actually cool. I was kind of reading about this. It's like
Hmm.
him and Turin like gets resurrected or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're the
Because
ones
it's
that
his like sword that ultimately kills Morgoth.
yeah, so Elrond's father and Turin actually defeat Morgoth at the very end of
Hmm.
that time. So it's pretty cool. I don't think we'll ever get like that in movies or form or anything,
No.
but it's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, so Fall of Gondolin, I liked a lot of it. There's some stuff that was kind of like we didn't need. It just needed tuning up, I guess you would say. It is very out of the three, it's very more in the biblical style where it's like this guy went there and he did this, and
Hmm.
it's kind of telling a history. So it wasn't as personal as the other two. Like I said, there was parts I really loved with like Turin when you see him and the two spies and stuff like that. The actual Gondolin stuff was probably the weakest. But you got the battle, so the battle part's cool.
Hmm.
But in the other version, you don't get really much of a battle, and it feels like the that other version is all just him traveling, and
Hmm.
then he gets the gondola and does the thing, and then it's over.
Yeah.
So I definitely think the first part's stronger. It just kind of ends though. It's just like, and then they walked around, and that was like the end. So it kind of needed like an ending, I would say. What did you think of this one?
I liked the first story of it where it's just like the main one just that kind of gives everything. Going into the longer battle. Um, I think as a story it's fine, but I don't think releasing it as a book is was the right thing to do because it's just very like this is in my opinion the most fragmented and kind of just brings a lot of stuff in that you don't really need. And like you said, it's not as personal as the other two, so it just feels more like kind of a history lesson like type of thing. And I think this goes well like in stuff like the Silmarillion and like the other books, but just as its own book, I don't think there was like the right call of just putting it like in one book because it doesn't really read like
Yeah.
that great. It just kind of feels like you are reading just kind of like separated like sketches of stuff. So
Yeah.
I like the tale itself, but just I don't like how it was like edited together this time.
Okay. So
There
yeah,
is there's some cool stuff, but even though like it's not really canon anymore, like the Balrogs are a lot weaker in this, so you do see like the humans fighting just the
mm,
Balrogs and kind of winning.
yeah, that was kind of weird. I was like, how are they
Yeah.
beating these Balrogs?
I think like since then he made the Balrogs a lot stronger, and so that part's not really like in there anymore, but that is kind of cool to see.
Mm, yeah. So definitely the weakest of the three, I guess.
Yeah.
Hold them up. but these are cool. I mean, if you like
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings, I definitely check it out. I definitely
Hmm.
like, like the concept of these, and like I said, it's like a mythology for the characters in it. These are very, I would say, very easily adapted into movies. I think you could do these into movies.
The first one definitely. The second one I think could, and then Gondolin would probably be the hardest one to adapt, but it still probably could.
Yeah, it would have to be like included. Yeah. I mean, you could do like one big one with children in Gondolin because it's the two cousins, but yeah, it'd probably have to be its own. But I think they could adapt these pretty easily, but I know that Christopher, was very adamant not to let him adapt these. He's passed away since then, so I know they're
Mhm.
discussing it. I know, um,
I
maybe
think
not. I
I
know,
wish that recent animated film like kind of went better because I think an animated style would be cool for some of these,
yeah.
especially if you did in like the old like the 70s animation. If you did it in that style, that would
I
be cool
think
for that would
it's
fit these stories very well.
especially like Beren and Luthien. I think that would work really good as an
Yeah.
anime. So I know like Peter Jackson is like in talks to do the Cimmerillion, or try to get the
Mhm.
Cimmerillion rights, which I don't know. That's not very cool because I know Christopher was like very like on his deathbed. Don't let them adapt
Yeah.
these. um, so I don't know if that's very cool of Peter Jackson to do that, but I do think these would actually make very cool movies.
Hmm.
It's especially if they didn't mess with them too much because I don't think they need messing with. But
Yeah, this wouldn't really need to be that long either.
mm-mm.
So you don't really need to go the Hobbit route either and just lengthen everything. So it would kind of fit in 2 hours.
Yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
definitely recommend
also,
them. Oh, go ahead.
it's funny Legolas shows up in Fall of Gondolin briefly.
Was that him or was that another guy named Legolas?
No, it was
It
him.
was him.
Look it up. So it's
You
funny
could,
because they like put like shoved him into the Hobbit and the books kind of did it, but with a different story.
yeah, and I don't remember too much of why he was in there, but was he in
They
the
just like meet
battle?
him while they're like no, they're while they're leaving like traveling after the battle.
Oh, after it, yeah, because he's one of like the gray elves
Yeah. They like
that.
cross paths and he like kind of goes with them until they find the place that they like settle at.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I forgot what they call. He's like the elves of the woodlands or something like that. So yeah, and they do to kind of talk about him. But yeah, so definitely recommend it if you're a Tolkien fan. If you're not, maybe just give Children or
Mm.
Beren a try, and maybe not Gondolin. But
Yeah.
um, if you like tragedy, I would say Children, and if you like kind of fantasy, Beren. Um, but yeah, this was a fun read, and we want to do some more fantasy. So if you guys have any
Mm.
recommendations, let us know. But we'll be on the lookout for what we go to next. So thanks for watching. Let us know what you guys think of these books and what was your favorite parts. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and notify yourself for even more good stuff. And we're going to see you next time.